Whether you are building your own home theater system or you are just looking to add more audio into your home, adding in-ceiling speakers can be a huge benefit. For a home theater system, having those in-ceiling speakers allows you to have the height features of the surround sound, making a movie more immersive. And if you are looking to simply add sound to a room, an in-ceiling location works great for filling the room with sound, but keeping the speaker low profile and out of the way. Hey guys, I'm Mark. Welcome to CarAudioFabrication. I'm currently working on building a home theater system here on the channel. So in this video, since we're going to be installing those in-ceiling speakers, I want to walk you through some of the features that I look for when picking in-ceiling speakers and also show you the installation process. Let's get into it. So first off, how do we select a good in-ceiling speaker? There's a couple of features that I definitely recommend that you guys keep an eye out for, and these are features that were important to me. One is you want the tweeter to be able to be aimed. We'll talk more about that later. Another important feature, to me anyway, is I want a well-designed mounting solution. There's nothing worse than installing an in-ceiling speaker and it potentially falling out or starting to come loose over time, so you really want to pay attention to how the mount is designed. Now, we could spend tons of time doing all sorts of research trying to find the optimal speaker for our situation, but sometimes it's best to just reach out to people that might be really familiar with everything that is currently available on the market, and that's why I reached out to Crutchfield. Crutchfield has a team of advisors, according to this. They currently have 158 people. These are people that are like you or me that we can call and talk to. They live and breathe home audio and car audio, and they're experts in this kind of thing. And like I mentioned, they have an understanding of all the different products that are currently on the market. So if you're looking for something unique, they're going to be able to help you out. So a big thanks to Crutchfield. They are also a sponsor of the channel. So if you want to learn more about them and take advantage of a special offer for car audio fabrication fans, definitely check out the links down in the video description. So let's get this open here. These are the 300 series from Focal. Now, of course, in the box, we get the speaker itself. We'll talk about that shortly. But with these in-wall or in-ceiling speakers, you're going to get a speaker mounting bracket. Now, depending on the company, these can be, like I mentioned earlier, well-designed or not so well-designed. I really like the design of these. We're going to go into detail on that on a second. But another thing to kind of pay attention for that you'll see is common with more of the premium speakers is they've thought out some of the extra things that you might need. With these, we get a cutout template. This is really handy. We're going to talk about how we use that in a second here. They also give us this. This is a paint protection shield. Imagine that the speaker is mounted into the bracket here. You can take the paint protection shield and it is going to just click in place like that with the built-in magnets. That way, if we're doing this before the painters come in, or if we want to repaint in the future, we can just keep these and we don't have to worry about getting any paint on our nice speaker. Now, of course, the instruction manual is in there as well, and it's also nice that on this particular pair, again, this is something you might want to look out for, they give us two different grills to use. We could use the round grill, which is what you usually will see on the ceiling as a round grill, and that's probably what I'll be using. But if you were mounting these in wall and you felt like the square looked better, you could use that instead. And finally, another addition here, they give us this scrim type material because with the grill in front of the speaker normally, you can actually still see the speaker. And if you didn't like that look, you can peel away the paper on this and you can add this black scrim material and it makes it so that you can no longer see that speaker. Now, if we look at the speaker itself, you can see that the speaker has what we would expect out of a normal car audio speaker, very similar in that regard, but the difference here is obviously the mounting solution that is built around this. In order to mount into drywall or a drop ceiling, it's not like you could just take a speaker and then just start drilling holes into it. Those screws aren't going to hold. That's why we need a good mounting solution, and we also want a good mounting solution that way in case we need to quickly disconnect this speaker and service it, we can do so. If we take a closer look at this frame that is built around the speaker, we can see all of the other components that are part of the passive crossover on this speaker. If you're not familiar with what a crossover does, that divides the frequencies of sound that are going to this speaker. It divides them between the woofer and the tweeter. That's because a tweeter can't play bass information. As an example, it would quickly blow the tweeter, and this allows the speaker to sound better by having each of the different parts of the speaker play what they are optimized to play. Something you'll commonly see on these higher end in-wall speakers is they've added some foam to the wires here. That way, if this is vibrating a little, we don't have to worry about these wires potentially vibrating against the frame or against the board and making any unwanted noise. So that looks nice and protected there. And if we flip to the back side here, it looks like they give us a little channel that we could run a zip tie, and that way we could zip tie a wire to the back if need be. We can also use these push to connect terminals in order to attach our speaker wire. And we have some options here for quickly adjusting the high level of the tweeter. So we could reduce that signal going to the tweeter by 3 dB, we could leave it at 0, or plus 3 dB. The other important aspect that I mentioned earlier in the video is we want the ability to adjust the tweeter. So you can see that on this tweeter, we can aim it off axis slightly if need be in order to face our listening position. The next important step for now is we want to determine where we want to mount these speakers. Now, depending on your application, a couple of good resources for you. One is the Dolby website. This allows you to determine the angles from your seating position in order to place the speakers optimally. Crutchfield is also a good resource. They have several different tech articles. I'll put one down in the description that will help with this project. So I've done a ton of measuring, and based on my listening position, I've determined that these two locations right here and right here are going to be perfect, and that's why I've already ran the wire to those locations for the speakers. I've already prepped my ceiling tile with a hole, and I'm going to tell you about why I made this board. I did this a couple of days ago at the shop. Let's cut back to that footage. All right, so here we have our drop ceiling tile, and the issue with these drop ceiling tiles, and not so much in my case, this one's actually pretty rigid, but a lot of times they can be very flexible, so you can't really just put a hole in them and mount the speaker because it's going to have a tendency to want to sag. Thankfully though, there's a really simple solution for this. We're just going to be using a board on the back side here, which will add some strength and rigidity, and it will make it so that it doesn't sag over time. To make this board, I'm using a piece of 1/4-inch material, and I've already cut it to the same dimension as our ceiling tile. Now you'll notice I've only cut it the same dimension in one direction. There's no reason that we have to cut it to the same full size. So I've just made sure that it's more than large enough for the speaker cutout, obviously. And I do this because then it's a little bit easier to get this all up into the ceiling. The next thing I need to do is obviously we want this centered. So I'm measuring the middle point and drawing 2 lines for a center point. Focal gives us a cutout template so we can line this up in the center and then draw a line around the outside. So now we can drill a hole, which gives us a starting point to use a jigsaw to cut out this hole. We'll carefully go along the line, but in my case, I'm going to leave a little bit of material and rough cut. That way I can perfect this on the router with a circle template. So our backer board is ready to go. This is a lot more solid now. It's going to give us a lot more rigidity, and it gives us a nice surface that if we did want to apply some sound treatment materials, we could easily stick them to this, whereas those type of materials traditionally don't really like to stick to this fiber board. So now, much like this board, of course, we want our speaker centered in the middle of this board as well. So I'm going to mark out those dimensions and draw the cutout. Another good way to make sure we get this cutout centered if we don't have the T-square is we could eyeball it, get it approximately in the center, and then we're going to measure it from the edge of it to the edge of our part, and we'll move our tape measure around to each side, and we want those values to be the same to know that we are in the exact center, and then we would draw the line. Now, when we go to cut our drop ceiling part, or if you were doing this in a drywall ceiling and you did want to use a power tool to make this perfect circular cut, I definitely recommend that you get a jigsaw blade that is made specifically for cutting drywall or this type of material. You can see this is a wood cutting blade on the left here, and you can see how it's a little bit different. This has a finer tooth. This is a specialized blade, and what I've really noticed works well about cutting with this is it doesn't chip away the material nearly as much, so you don't have to worry about having a big chip on the front side that you're going to see. I'll carefully start the jigsaw blade into the ceiling tile and make that cut. See how it's really nice and a clean cut? There's not a lot of fragmenting away or breaking away, chipping away. Nice and clean. This is ready to go. All right, so now that you saw how that was done, we're back now. I'm going to get these placed up into the ceiling. It usually makes things a little bit more easy to move an adjacent ceiling tile out of the way, so I've popped that one up out of the way, and I'm going to take my backer board and I'm going to slide it up here as well. That way I can slide it back into position when need be. So now the fun part, We want to turn this at a slight angle and get this up in. There we go. When I go to put this mounting bracket into the ceiling, first I need to click these down out of the way. Now what's going to happen is once I do get it up into the ceiling, and we'll take a look at this bracket here, what I can do is I can pop this down, and this has a spring on it on this separate part of the arm. See how those two move independently? You'll also see there's a little locking tab right here. So what happens is this will sandwich down on our two different pieces of material, and it's going to close them together nice and tight because this is a really strong spring. And once it's like that, we can flex this down out of the way, and you can see that little tab right there locks into the black piece. By doing this, this is now locked in position, and like I said, this is good and strong right there, so it holds real nice and tight onto our materials. Once the bracket is in the ceiling, we'll take the speaker, and you see these little arrows here. Those are gonna line up with the unlocked position, and there's 4 of them, so we just have to clock it correctly, and we'll line it up just like that. And once it's in the ceiling, we're going to rotate the inner assembly here by pushing on these red tabs. We can rotate it. We want to rotate it so that this arrow is midway between the 2 unlocked positions, so basically pointing right here. This is actually super smart. As an engineer, I love the design of this because let's just take a look at the back side to see what's happening. So what happens is when we rotate that, these little parts here that are all part of that assembly, they're going to force themselves underneath this groove here. So right now it's just a little offset from the unlocked position. Let me rotate it and show you. All right, here we go. So the arrow is between the 2 unlocked spots. We'll flip it over and see how these are now underneath this lip. So once this is up in the ceiling, this is going to be locked in really good, but if we do need to undo it, it is as simple as just rotating this inner part back to the unlock. If you're installing an in-ceiling speaker, I definitely recommend doing a dry fit like this because in this case, I've learned that if I want my little Focal logo to line up, which of course I do because I want this tweeter to be aimed where I aimed it, I want it to be clocked in orientation with this. So when I put in the ring first, I want to pay attention to where this is located. I don't want to have it offset and then not have the speaker, once it's clocked in its final position, line up correctly. All right, so I made sure my speaker wire is through. Position this up into the hole, make sure it's lined up with that inner piece of wood. I'm gonna fold down each of these brackets like I showed you guys. That was super simple. That took like literally 15 seconds. Get our wires stripped and prepped. Twist the strands all nice. I know it's hard for you guys to see, but I'm connecting the push to connect terminals to the wiring. Then we'll push the speaker up in, and like we talked about, we'll make sure it's lined up with the unlock part. There we go. And then we've turned it into position to lock it. So here we have it, guys. This is looking super cool. I cannot wait to hear these. Let's see what it looks like with the grill on it. That grill is held on with magnets. And like I mentioned before, if you look just right, you can, right there, see how you can see the speaker up inside there? I kind of want it to blend more into the ceiling. So let's carefully peel this scrim material and line it up. Put it inside the grill. Let's give it a light smooth to make it stick. And you can see how much of a difference that makes. We really can't see that speaker at all now, and that material is acoustically transparent, so it doesn't make a difference to the sound. Next time you want to build your own home theater or car audio system, definitely check out show sponsor Crutchfield. Their expert advisors can help you pick out exactly what you need for your system. To learn more, check out the link down in the video description. As always, my friends, thank you guys for tuning in and watching.